Friends, I want you to hear me today. Whatever you are facing, whatever burden is pressing down on your shoulders, I want you to know that your situation is not the end. I know some of you feel the weight of despair, the heaviness of life's trials, and you wonder if relief will ever come. But let me tell you this, God has not forgotten you. He has not overlooked your pain. He is working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it, even when it feels like the world is against you. Life is full of seasons, and some seasons are heavy. There are times when it feels as if the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders, when every step forward feels like moving through mud, and every breath seems harder than the last. In those moments, it is natural to feel overwhelmed, to question why hardships come, and to wonder if relief will ever arrive. Acknowledging the struggle is not about giving in to despair, rather, it is about recognizing the reality of life's challenges while refusing to let them define you. Each struggle we face is tangible. Whether it is financial difficulty, relational tension, illness, loss, or disappointment, these trials are real, and they impact our hearts, minds, and spirits. Pretending they do not exist or masking the pain behind a smile does not change the reality of the storm around us. To acknowledge struggle is to face it honestly, to name it for what it is, and to allow yourself the grace to feel the weight of it without letting it crush your hope. When life presses down, it often feels isolating. You may look around and see others who seem to have smooth paths, or you may feel that no one truly understands what you are enduring. It is in these moments of isolation that acknowledgement becomes critical. Acknowledging the struggle is a way of saying, I see this, I feel this, and I will not ignore it. It validates your emotions and allows you to confront reality, rather than bury it under pretenses of strength. It is not weakness to admit that you are weary or broken, it is a courageous act of honesty before God and before yourself. By admitting the struggle, you create a space for God's presence to meet you in the midst of difficulty. He does not require perfection or pretense, He meets us in the raw, unpolished corners of our lives, where the pain is real and the heart is open. Struggle has a way of testing the limits of our endurance, and in many ways, it is a teacher. Each challenge exposes areas of vulnerability, areas where faith may feel thin, and areas where we are tempted to give up. Acknowledging the struggle allows us to confront these areas with courage and to seek the strength that comes from faith. When we name our trials, we begin to see them for what they are, temporary, teachable moments designed to refine us, not define us. It is in the honesty of facing struggle that we begin to learn resilience, patience, and perseverance. Without acknowledgement, we risk ignoring the lessons that hardship can teach, and we may fail to recognize the ways God is working even in the midst of suffering. Often, the acknowledgement of struggle is the first step toward transformation. Life's storms do not come to defeat us but to shape us. When we face adversity head-on, we become more compassionate, more empathetic, and more attuned to the struggles of others. By admitting our pain and allowing ourselves to feel it fully, we open the door to healing, to growth, and to the realization that we are never truly alone in our trials. Struggle, when acknowledged, becomes a bridge to greater faith. It becomes an opportunity to lean into God's promises, to pray with sincerity, and to trust that His plans are larger than our immediate circumstances. Acknowledging struggle also helps us to set realistic expectations. Life is not always smooth, and understanding this allows us to navigate difficulties without despair. It teaches us to take one step at a time, to focus on what we can control, and to release what we cannot. By recognizing that hardships are part of life, we cultivate patience and endurance, learning to move forward despite uncertainty. This acknowledgement fosters humility, reminding us that strength is not found in denying challenges but in facing them with courage and faith. It encourages a mindset that does not run from pain but engages. Hope is not a passive feeling that drifts into our hearts when life feels easy, it is a conscious choice, a decision that we make even when circumstances seem bleak. Choosing hope is an act of faith, a deliberate stance against despair, fear, and uncertainty. Many people think hope comes naturally, that it arrives when things improve, but the truth is that hope is often born in the darkest valleys, when the heart is weighed down by struggles, losses, or unanswered prayers. It is in these moments that choosing hope becomes an act of courage. It is saying to yourself, I may not see the way forward yet, but I trust that God is working behind the scenes, and I will not give up. This choice is powerful because it shifts the center of our focus from what we lack, from what is broken, and from what seems impossible, toward the belief that transformation is coming, that God's plan is at work, and that no situation is ever beyond His reach. When life storms rage around us, it is easy to feel that hope is out of reach. We look at mounting bills, broken relationships, health crises, or shattered dreams, and our natural reaction is to sink into despair. Yet the choice to hope does not rely on the absence of difficulty, it thrives precisely in the presence of difficulty. Choosing hope means acknowledging the challenges while refusing to let them define your future. It is deciding that the current season of struggle will not have the final word. This conscious decision allows the heart to rise. God's faithfulness is the anchor of our lives, the unshakable truth that remains constant even when everything around us seems uncertain. In a world filled with unpredictability, broken promises, and shifting circumstances, the reliability of God's character stands firm. Faithfulness is not dependent on our understanding, our actions, or the timing of events, it exists in God's nature. He does not change like shifting shadows or falter like human strength. Every promise He has spoken, every covenant He has established, and every act of love He has extended is rooted in a faithfulness that surpasses human comprehension. To rely on God's faithfulness is to place trust in something eternal, unmovable, and perfect, even when the storm clouds gather and the path forward is unclear. Life often tests our perception of God's faithfulness. We experience setbacks, disappointments, or delays that seem contrary to the hope we carry. Sometimes prayers feel unanswered, doors remain closed, and circumstances appear to defy the assurances we have been given. Yet God's faithfulness is not measured by our immediate satisfaction or the speed at which outcomes manifest, it is measured by His consistency, His unwavering love, and His commitment to fulfill what He has promised in His perfect timing. There is comfort in knowing that even when we cannot see His hand at work, it is never absent. The mountains of difficulty may rise before us, the seas of confusion may threaten to overwhelm us, but God's faithfulness is the firm foundation on which we can stand without fear, without wavering, and without doubt. Acknowledging God's faithfulness requires a heart that looks beyond circumstance and focuses on His track record throughout history and in our own lives. Scripture is filled with countless examples of God remaining true to His people, delivering them, sustaining them, and bringing them into places of blessing despite their weakness or failure. From the liberation of His people in times of oppression to the quiet, unseen moments where prayers are answered in subtle but profound ways, God's faithfulness is evident everywhere. Even when life seems chaotic, when hope is fragile, and when human solutions fail, God remains steadfast, orchestrating every detail according to His divine plan. To embrace His faithfulness is to cultivate trust that transcends emotion, that refuses to be shaken by temporary setbacks, and that finds rest in the certainty of His character. God prayer is the lifeline that connects the human spirit to the divine, a sacred channel through which we can communicate with the Creator of the universe. It is more than mere words or habitual recitation. Prayer is an act of faith, a declaration that we believe in a God who hears, who cares, and who intervenes. In the midst of life's trials, when the weight of problems feels unbearable, prayer becomes the avenue through which hope flows, strength is renewed, and clarity is received. It is in the quiet, unguarded moments of honest conversation with God that hearts are lifted, burdens are lightened, and courage is restored. Many fail to recognize the power of prayer because they measure it by immediate results, yet prayer is not just about changing circumstances, it is about aligning our hearts with God's will, opening ourselves to His guidance, and experiencing the transformative presence of His Spirit in the midst of struggle. When life seems chaotic, when darkness surrounds and solutions appear distant, prayer becomes a declaration of trust. It is saying, I may not understand, I may not see the path, but I believe you are at work. Through prayer, we acknowledge that we are not alone, that our struggles do not define the outcome, and that the God who holds the universe also holds our lives in His hands. The power of prayer lies not in the eloquence of our words but in the sincerity of our hearts and the depth of our faith. Even when we feel weak, broken, or unworthy, prayer is the bridge that connects human need with divine provision. It reminds us that God is not distant or indifferent, He is near. Life's trials are often the crucibles through which the soul is refined and faith is strengthened. They come unannounced, sometimes gently and sometimes like storms that shake every foundation we have built. At first, trials may appear as obstacles, interruptions, or even punishments, yet beneath the surface, they carry a hidden purpose: transformation. Every hardship has the potential to mold character, deepen faith, and cultivate resilience in ways that comfort and ease never could. When faced with difficulty, it is natural to ask why we must endure such pain or struggle, but the truth is that trials are not meaningless. They are instruments in the hands of a faithful God, designed to draw out strength, patience, humility, and insight that could not be developed in the absence of challenge. Transformation through trials is the process of becoming who we were created to be, often revealed only after the fire has tested our hearts. Trials challenge our understanding of control. Life teaches us that we are not the ultimate authority over our circumstances, that no matter how careful or diligent we may be, hardships can touch anyone. This confrontation with limitation is transformative because it shifts reliance from human ability to divine power. When we realize that we cannot navigate every difficulty on our own, we are forced to look upward, to seek guidance, and to place our trust in God's wisdom rather than our own understanding. It is in these moments of surrender that transformation begins. Our hearts are softened, our perspective is expanded, and our faith becomes more authentic. The trial itself, while uncomfortable and painful, becomes the catalyst for spiritual growth, shaping a deeper dependence on God's unfailing love and provision. The nature of transformation through trials is both internal and external. Internally, trials refine our character, revealing strengths we did not know we possessed and weaknesses we had not confronted. They teach perseverance, endurance, and patience, demanding that we continue to move forward even when hope feels distant. Our emotions, thoughts, and attitudes are tested, forcing us to confront fear, doubt, pride, and impatience. Through these tests, we learn humility, resilience, and the capacity to forgive ourselves and others. Externally, trials often change our circumstances in ways that, at first, may seem discouraging but ultimately lead to opportunities, blessings, and new perspectives. What appears as a closed door may later be revealed as a protective measure, guiding us toward a path more aligned with God's purpose for our lives. The outward outcomes are often delayed. Fear is one of the most natural responses to uncertainty, pain, and danger, yet it is also one of the greatest obstacles to experiencing the fullness of God's plan. Fear can paralyze the mind, cloud judgment, and weigh heavily on the spirit, convincing us that we are alone, powerless, or defeated. In moments of fear, the heart races, thoughts spiral, and doubt creeps in, making mountains of challenges that might otherwise seem manageable. But faith is the antidote to fear. It is the choice to trust in the unseen, to believe in God's promises even when circumstances suggest otherwise, and to step forward with courage despite trembling hands. Faith over fear is not the absence of fear, rather, it is the deliberate act of moving forward in confidence because we know who holds our lives, who commands the universe, and who is working all things for our good. Faith confronts fear with perspective. Fear magnifies problems, blowing them out of proportion and making the obstacles appear larger than they truly are. Faith, on the other hand, reframes reality, reminding us that no situation is beyond God's control and that His power far exceeds the challenges we face. When fear whispers that we cannot endure, faith responds that God is our strength, our shield, and our ever-present help in trouble. When fear insists that we are alone, faith declares that the Creator of the heavens and the earth walks beside us, guiding, protecting. Victory is not always immediate, and it is not always obvious, but it is certain for those who trust in God's power and remain steadfast in faith. Life often presents us with challenges that seem insurmountable, obstacles that appear permanent, and circumstances that feel unfair. In the midst of these struggles, it is easy to become discouraged, to doubt the possibility of overcoming, and to forget that God's plans are far greater than our perception of reality. Yet the truth is that victory is inevitable for those who do not waver, for those who cling to hope, and for those who place their lives fully in God's hands. This inevitability is rooted not in human effort, but in the unchanging nature of God's faithfulness, the strength of His promises, and the certainty of His word. It is a victory that is assured because it is God's will to bring restoration, blessing, and triumph to those who trust Him, even when the path is difficult and the journey is long. Many people struggle to believe in inevitable victory because they measure success by immediate results or visible outcomes. They look around and see delays, failures, or repeated setbacks and wonder if victory will ever come. Yet true victory is not always about timing or visible progress, it is about persistence, faithfulness, and alignment with God's purposes. Every delay, every challenge, and every moment of waiting is part of a divine process that shapes character, strengthens faith, and prepares the heart to receive what God has promised. The inevitability of victory is not dependent on human perfection or constant understanding, but on the unwavering power of God who never fails, who never abandons his children, and who orchestrates every detail for a good and perfect outcome. Victory is inevitable because it is not earned by human might alone, but by cooperation with God's plan. Life often tempts us to rely solely on our own strength, intelligence, or resources, and when these efforts fail, discouragement can set in. Yet God's victory is not contingent on our abilities, it is secured by His power, His timing, and His wisdom. We are called to participate through obedience, faith, and perseverance, but the outcome is guaranteed by a higher power that is faithful and true. This divine assurance allows believers to face trials with confidence, knowing that no matter how severe the challenge, no matter how daunting the opposition, God's plan cannot be thwarted. Every struggle, every setback, and every delay is temporary in the light of His eternal promise of triumph. The inevitability of victory also transforms the way we approach life's battles. Instead of being consumed by fear, worry, or frustration, we are invited to stand firm in faith, to trust in God's timing, and to act with courage and hope. Knowing that victory is assured gives perspective to suffering, meaning to endurance, and purpose to perseverance. It encourages patience, for we understand that the process of reaching victory often involves growth, refinement, and preparation. Challenges are no longer seen as purely negative experiences but as instruments in God's hand, shaping us into vessels capable of receiving the fullness of His blessing. Every hardship becomes an opportunity to demonstrate faith, every obstacle a chance to trust more deeply, and every delay a reminder that God's timing is perfect. Victory is inevitable because God is relentless in His pursuit of His children. He is not limited by human understanding, circumstance, or time. His promises are steadfast, and His power is absolute. When we face opposition, He is greater than every adversary. When we feel weak, His strength carries us. When we are tempted to give up, His Spirit renews us. The inevitability of victory rests on this unshakable truth: God's purposes cannot be thwarted. Every plan, every word, and every promise He has spoken will come to pass in the fullness of time. For those who align themselves with Him, who walk in faith, and who persevere through trials, victory is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Understanding the inevitability of victory also brings peace amidst uncertainty. Life perseverance is the quiet, steadfast determination to continue moving forward despite obstacles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. It is the act of holding on when the path seems uncertain, of trusting God's timing when solutions are not immediately visible, and of refusing to surrender to despair when life becomes difficult. Perseverance is not merely enduring, it is enduring with faith, purpose, and expectation. It is the conscious decision to persist even when the heart grows weary, when the spirit longs for relief, and when the eyes cannot yet see the breakthrough that lies ahead. In the journey of life, challenges are inevitable, and the call to perseverance is God's invitation to rise above temporary circumstances and align ourselves with His eternal promises. Those who heed this call are not immune to struggle, but they are empowered to continue because their strength is rooted not in themselves, but in a faithful and unchanging God who sustains them in every trial. Perseverance is born out of hope. When hope is alive in the heart, it fuels the determination to keep going even in the face of repeated failures or prolonged difficulties. It reminds us that no situation is permanent and that God's timing is perfect. To persevere is to acknowledge that life may be filled with unexpected twists and turns, but that these are part of a greater plan, a divine process through which character, faith, and resilience are developed. Each trial endured, each challenge faced with courage, and each step forward in faith strengthens the spirit and prepares the individual to receive God's blessings fully. Without perseverance, hope can fade, faith can waver, and the opportunities that come through patience and steadfastness may be missed. Perseverance requires discipline and intentionality. It is easy to become discouraged when progress seems slow or when obstacles appear insurmountable. The natural inclination of the human heart is to give up, to seek easier paths, or to abandon the pursuit of God's promises when confronted with adversity. Yet perseverance is an act of resistance against that inclination. It is a conscious commitment to keep walking the path, even when the journey is difficult, because the end goal is greater than the temporary discomfort. This discipline is strengthened through prayer, meditation on God's word, and continual remembrance of His faithfulness. When the heart is grounded in the assurance of God's love and His unchanging character, perseverance becomes not only possible but a source of inner strength and peace. Perseverance also transforms the perspective with which we view trials. Rather than seeing challenges as meaningless or purely burdensome, those who persevere come to recognize them as opportunities for growth and refinement. Every difficulty endured faithfully becomes a testament to God's sustaining power and a building block for spiritual maturity. The moments that test our endurance reveal the depth of our faith and the strength of our reliance on God. The longer one perseveres in faith, the more resilient the heart becomes, and the more capable one is of facing future challenges with courage and wisdom. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory in itself, a demonstration that God's strength is made perfect in weakness and that His presence sustains those who refuse to quit. Perseverance is inseparable from faith. To endure without faith is to endure in emptiness, to persist without hope is to struggle in futility. Faith provides the vision that the eyes cannot yet see, the assurance that the heart longs to feel, and the confidence that circumstances cannot provide. It is faith that whispers, "Keep going, the breakthrough is coming, even when the path is dark." It is faith that strengthens the resolve to continue, knowing that God's promises are sure, that His timing is perfect, and that His power is unlimited. Those who persevere are not relying on their own strength alone, but on the mighty hand of God that upholds them, guides them, and carries them through every trial. Perseverance requires patience, an understanding that God's plan unfolds according to divine timing rather than human urgency.